So, as I'm sure you've all heard, the Tories won the election. It's official. They actually won by a landslide. And I hate to say it, but I told you so. I correctly predicted 3 times that the Tories were going to win. I said it twice on the show, and I said it once on Twitter as well. Look, hate to say this, but my gut tells me Tories will win on Thursday, and Bernie's going to get shanked again. I hope I'm wrong. The day before the election, they were saying, oh, the Tories are just going to win by a slight majority. Nope, turns out it was a landslide. Matter of fact, they did so good that this is their largest majority since the 1980s, since 1987.
We did it. We pulled it off, didn't we?
And Labour were humiliated. Jeremy Corbyn has resigned as party leader.
I want to also make it clear that I will not lead the party in any future general election campaign.
And now the UK is on a path of no return. You know, being a Brit, I must let my English side come out and say that was a pile of fucking bollocks. So let's break this down. Let us break down what happened. The Tories, the Conservatives, they won 364 seats. You need 326 to win a majority, so they smashed that. Labour came in second place with 203 seats. The SNP, the Scottish National Party, they did great. They did actually great. They won by a landslide. They got 48 seats. And the Lib Dems, Jo Swinson, lost her seat. The Lib Dems have no leader at the moment. She lost her seat to the SNP. This is a very interesting election. And if you look at the map of the UK, the whole thing is basically blue. If you look at England, the whole thing is basically blue. Labour got decimated in their own strongholds. Labour should have won in the north. Labour should have won in the Midlands. They didn't. They got humiliated. Now, of course, the centrists will tell you it's Corbyn's fault. If you had just put someone else to lead the Labour Party, Labour would have won.
Corbyn was a disaster on the doorstep. Everyone knew that he couldn't lead the working class out of a paper bag. I want momentum gone. Go back to your student politics and your little, left-wing...
But that isn't realistically...
And they say this, of course, because they don't like Corbyn and they don't like his progressive policies. Now, did Corbyn screw up during this election? Did he make some mistakes during this election? Yes. If you look at the claims of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, me personally, I don't think he handled it well. There was an instance of one female MP, I forget her name, but she was sharing videos on Facebook denying the Holocaust, and he just gave her a warning letter. Dude, if I was in Jeremy Corbyn's shoes, I would have immediately fired her and gotten rid of her. There's no place for people like that in the party. A letter of warning does not suffice. With that said, I don't think that the anti-Semitism allegations are what did Corbyn in. Matter of fact, I don't think Corbyn is the reason that Labour lost this election by a landslide. I don't think that's the reason. The reason is Brexit. The centrists want you to think that, oh, it's Corbyn and he's too lefty. People are not there yet. It's not about that. There was nothing radical about the Labour manifesto. It was Brexit. Now, some people will say that, okay, Jeremy Corbyn, he wasn't clear on his own personal position, whether he was for or against Brexit. Yes, that could have maybe slightly been the issue. That could have contributed to it. But the party as a whole, the whole Labour Party, there was no consensus. There was no consensus. And I think Brexit is what broke Labour, and I think that's what ruined this election. I really do. I really do, because it's not just a question of Labour not being clear on their position. It's also that the Tories, that's the only thing they're running on. If Brexit was already done, let's imagine that Brexit was taken care of 6 months ago or a year ago. I think the Tories would have lost because they have nothing to run on. What are they proposing? They're not proposing to raise the minimum wage to £10. They're not proposing to cancel university fees. They're not proposing to invest in infrastructure, to buy back rail, mail, and all that stuff. What are they proposing? No one knows. So I think Labour had the right policies, but Brexit, their indecisiveness and lack of a clear position is what did them in. And I think people just wanted to get it over with. But I think people screwed themselves. They don't know what they've just done. Let's say, okay, you want to get Brexit done at all costs. You want a party that can take care of that. Do you know what that actually entails? To this day, I am pretty sure that most people who voted to leave the EU still don't even understand what the EU is. They can't name any institutions. They don't know anything that the EU does. They have no idea that their lives are constantly being bettered by the EU. They don't know that. So they've screwed themselves twice now. Not only are they going to leave the EU, and you're going to see what that's going to bring, but on top of it, they've bought themselves another 5 years of austerity from a government that is proposing nothing new. So well done. Now, the SNP, they're going to want a referendum. Matter of fact, Sturgeon, she already talked about it, and she's probably going to ask for it before Christmas. Can you blame them? 90+% of Scotland voted to stay in the EU, and now they're being dragged out of it against their own will. So she's going to ask for a second referendum on independence. I don't think Boris Johnson's going to give it to her because he's a unionist. He doesn't want Scotland to be independent. We'll see what happens on that front. But let us be clear, Sturgeon was elected on that energy under the guise of having another independence referendum. This has a nationalist undertone to it. You can't deny that. That's why the SNP won by a landslide. That's why they got 48 seats. Regarding Brexit, regarding what the Conservatives are going to do, next Friday, they're going to have a sitting for the Brexit bill. They're wasting no time, They're going to try and get it done by January 31st. Now, Brexit has been postponed so many times. So many times. They would give you a deadline and then it would turn out to be in another few months. Just look at what happened now. Boris Johnson wanted to get Brexit done on October 31st. He couldn't. And now it's been postponed to January 31st. Now, yes, he has no roadblock anymore in the parliament. Now the Tories have a majority. There's no one blocking them. They can get legislation passed like that. They have a majority. I don't know, though. Brexit is such a drawn-out issue. We'll see. But what I am very dubious about, what I am very skeptical about, is Boris Johnson's ability to negotiate a trade deal with the EU within a year. So he has about a year to do it. This is assuming the UK leaves on January 31st. And also his trade deal with the US. Oh boy, we can't wait to see what that does. We can't wait to see what happens to the NHS and everything else. This is another thing people don't realize. The EU has very strict health regulations, very strict regulations on food. Once those are gone, it's open season for American corporations, and UK corporations too, to do whatever they like. So I'm very skeptical about Boris Johnson's ability to get a deal with the EU. That's going to be, because let me tell you something, the EU doesn't need the UK as badly as the UK needs the EU. So the EU are not going to make that many compromises. Matter of fact, they are actually quite sick of the UK and just want them to leave already. So I don't know what kind of amazing trade deal Boris Johnson is going to come up with, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Now, regarding the Labour Party, I woke up and saw that Jeremy Corbyn had resigned and, gutted. Absolutely gutted. This is the first time in a long time that you have had someone who's actually a socialist, who is actually of the working class, the Labour Party. And now, the risk is that it's just going to fall back into the hands of the neoliberals, of the centre-rights, of the Blairites, and it's going to become a garbage party which brought the Tories into power in the first place. What a shame. And again, to the people who are saying that this is Corbyn's fault, let me please remind you that 2 years ago in 2017, Jeremy Corbyn, even though they lost the election, Labour still had 40% of the vote. And they led a very effective opposition for the last 2 years against the Tories. And that was under Corbyn. So you can't have it both ways. Okay, you can't have a very strong opposition under Corbyn, getting 40% of the vote under Corbyn, and then say that he's a useless leader and the party's ineffective. with him as leader. No. This is nonsense. The whole issue is Brexit. It's not Corbyn. Matter of fact, if I remember correctly, I think Corbyn was like 10,000 votes away from becoming prime minister last time around. So, and it's the Conservatives who did badly last time. Brexit is the issue here. Brexit is what broke Labour in the Midlands. It's what broke Labour in the North, in their own strongholds, and cost them this election. And it's very humiliating. It is a terrible loss. I mean, this is the worst loss Labour has had in almost 100 years. Think about that. So like I said now, the UK is on a path of no return. When people wake up, it's going to be too late. When people wake up in 10 years and they see, damn, our life was actually much better inside the EU. Damn, what has Boris Johnson, what have the Tories done with our NHS? It's going to be too late. It is going to be too late by then. The damage will be irreversible. And all of this is a result of ignorance. People not being educated. People going out to the polls and voting against their own self-interest because they don't understand what the EU is. They don't understand the benefits of it, the institutions, that it actually brings peace and stability in a continent that's been at war for its entire history. They don't understand that the Tories that they just voted in are going to unleash the power of corporations onto the people, onto the public sector. They're going to eat away at the government and at people's livelihoods and people's standard of living. They don't understand that they've been voting against their own self-interest. And when they wake up, it will be too late. It will be too late. This is a wake-up call. What's going to happen with Bernie Sanders next year? Who knows what's going to happen? People were shocked at Brexit in 2016. They were shocked in 2017. Now they're shocked again in 2019. I mean, don't be shocked. Don't be shocked if Bernie Sanders gets screwed over next year. Never underestimate the centrists and the neoliberals and the right-wingers. They're all on one team at the end of the day. So like I said, man, I knew this was coming. My gut told me. Because people are not educated on the issues. They don't grasp the reality that they're living in. They don't understand that voting Tory, that voting neoliberal, that voting centrist works towards their own detriment. They don't understand this. And by the time they do, it's too late. By the time people realize that, oh, the Tories screwed us over, the Labour Party won't be a viable option anymore because it will have fallen back into the grasp of the centrists and the Blairites and the center-rights. That's what's going to happen. I mean, they've been trying to get rid of Corbyn for years now. Inside their own party, they've been working against him. Just like you see the inside of the Democratic Party working against Bernie. This planet is screwed. It really is. Now you're going to have a government in the UK that doesn't raise the minimum wage, takes no action on climate change, doesn't invest in infrastructure, lets corporations run wild, and oh man. This is going to be a disaster. We really woke up to a nightmare. This is a real Friday the 13th.